Hello,
Hello.
ladies.
Hi, Amanda.
Hello, Corey.
Welcome, my dear, to the Cory and Isabel podcast. So, we're really, really, really excited to have a deep conversation with Amanda today. We pass it over to Isabel, and Isabel's going to talk about our friend Amanda right here.
Hi,
Yeah.
Isabel.
Hi, Mama. It's been so many years. I fell in love with her the minute I met her at the Chopra Center. Everything was going on, and she was the mama bear there, and a lot of help for Dr. Chopra. And so for years and years and years, when I was going there, her and Renee were such a pillars and light. They guide some thousands of them. You dealt with so many people from Oprah to who knows what.
And Renee is your husband, right?
Renee's my husband, yeah. And he did
Yeah,
the
yeah,
audio visual for the Chopra Center. So
yeah.
we kind of created the productions together.
Is that how you met him?
Yeah. Well, he was an attendee actually. So I
Oh,
was doing my MC teaching role and he came to an event, what is it now, 17 years ago, and attended and had clarity when he saw me, apparently, of exactly who I was going to be in his life. And it took me a little time to come around to that, but I sure did. He's the best husband in the world. He's the best thing.
oh.
No, he's an amazing angel.
We like romantic stories on here.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
so sweet
Yeah,
and kind and loving and beautiful. Yeah, inside out. Yeah, he's
he sure
lovely.
is. He sure is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he loves dogs the way are Amanda and I, myself, and you. So that's really good.
Mm.
Imagine to be with a partner that don't do
Oh,
and
I can't even have a friend that doesn't like dogs.
I know, I know the mailman needs to like my dogs.
I
UPS, you better like my dogs. You can deliver here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone has different experiences with animals, right? So it's not always the same, but there is just a beautiful innocence. And so when someone can see that innocence, you see their heart too. It reflects. We'll talk about that a lot probably throughout this conversation is the mirroring that's happened. So I think when I see someone loving a dog and just like that glossy beauty in their eyes and the dog loving them back, you just see that's source, that's divinity reflecting itself to each other.
Right, it's a bath of a shower of endorphins and opening up everything in our body. I mean, that's so healing, right? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember the day when we were at the Chopra Center in Carlsbad, and it was this little car in a little car holder, and I said, "Oh, Ayurvedic for dog. This is amazing." You say, "Well, this is my business and that I'm starting," and I was like, "Wow, that's really brave," because people they don't even care about what they eat.
It's a stretch. Well, luckily, I would say over the last 10 years, I've almost had SAMA Dog now for 10 years, which is amazing
Wow.
how time flies. That means we've known each other for longer than 10 years. So that's really beautiful, Isabel. But as time goes on, I do think that I've witnessed a change in people's consciousness, let's just call it that, around their animals. Everything from what they feed them to how they treat them to how they treat themselves and how much that all ties in together.
Mm.
So, for our audience, then, Amanda, can you explain to us how you went from Chopra Center to you? Well, you were the executive director, was that correct?
She
Yeah, the
was
vice,
the vice president.
the vice
President
president.
at
Hmm.
Center to going in a completely different direction, starting Sama Dog. Can you explain to us what that's all about and how that came around for you?
Yes, absolutely. It's been quite a journey. I think when you look back at as you kind of step back from anyone's story, as they tell it, you see how meant to be it all was and how it all fell into place in the perfect way. And I just get excited sometimes when I think about what's even to come and, being guided. I have felt very guided through this work from the beginning. So I do think that originally it's why I even was drawn into the realm of yoga and mindfulness. But let's go back it up a little bit to start, back to when I was 3 years old, because that really is where this dog connection began. I was drowning in the backyard pool. And, in those days, mom was connected to the wall with a cord still. So she wasn't out there watching. And I slipped into, we had this jacuzzi, kind of Southern California, big giant jacuzzi slash pool. And it had this bench all the way around it. And I would walk around it as a little girl. And I slipped off the bench part and went into the deep part. And our dog, our Sheltie Prince, jumped in and saved me. Shelties are not water loving dogs. And he had never been in the water before, but he was my bestie. And mom got aware of us in the backyard through all the splashing of him pulling me out of the pool. And so then I was like, coming back to, and she realized that I probably wouldn't even be here without that dog. And my soul and the dog soul, the collective dog soul, united or reunited, let's say, at that moment. And I just had always loved them ever since. I had no idea that my life would become so dog-centric, but I certainly did have a huge, huge connection and friendship throughout all of my years. So then fast forward all the years later, and after college and getting into yoga, meditation, and Ayurveda initially through an asana, that's the posture class that most of us are familiar with. And I've probably been to a few of, if not many more. And so I just started going to some classes originally, what is it now? Like 30 years ago, probably. Yeah, about 30 years ago. And loved it. Had a few very inspired teachers that opened my mind to the whole yoga philosophy, much more than just doing, stretching on a mat. And that deeply inspired me. It really gave me direction and connection and satisfied a longing that I'd had for a long time, because although I had a deep connection to source and creation, I didn't know where to go, how to place it, how to deepen it. And so that journey definitely did that. And then eventually it led me to wanting to go to a yoga ashram. It's like a spiritual community where you can learn more. I just like to define some terms because, of course, all of our listeners come from different backgrounds and different knowledge. So I don't want to, lose anybody when we use these Sanskrit words. So anyway, ashram is this spiritual community where people can live and thrive and learn and practice. And also teacher trainings are done there quite often. And so I actually came here to Grass Valley, California. I'm now living in Nevada City, also another full circle that I didn't expect all those years ago. So I went off to the Sivananda ashram that's here locally and did their month-long teacher training, and then continued on through their organization through more teacher trainings and advancements, and fell in love with yoga, philosophy, fell in love with meditation, fell really in love with the science that I'd never heard of before in my life, which is Ayurveda. Ayurveda is more known now than ever before, I would say, in the West, that is. So that's a great thing, but it's the mind-body science. It's the science of life, as it's translated to, or I like to call it the science of nature, because it completely lends itself to a structure that is based on the 5 elements of nature and the seasonal changes and the environmental changes and lunar rhythms and just like everything that nature's doing. And so it really is nature's science, and it has a huge impact on us, our physical and our mental and state and health and balance and healing. And so as I learned all of that, I found my way to the Chopra Center, which is founded by Dr. Deepak Chopra, who many are likely familiar with, a prolific author and teacher and mind-body guru. And and I just like to say that word guru like that.
You say it very nice, by the way.
He doesn't like to call himself a guru, actually. He would never say that, but he calls himself a teacher.
Fun to say, though.
It is. It rolls off the tongue very nicely. So yeah, found my way there. That now was like 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, and started working in that space. I'd been an event planner, so I got into the event side of that, became the director, and then eventually became the vice president of the Chopra Center and ran all the events. We went all over the world producing these meditation, health, yoga, whatever it might be, conferences, big and small. And I taught and emceed all of them, taught at and emceed and helped put them all together and hire all of our amazing speakers that came through, these, world's luminaries that it was such a blessing to be able to learn from. So I just gathered tons of information and I fell in love with these teachings and was able to deepen it so much through all of that. So
Wow.
that went on for many years. And then it was really there was a moment in time that it all came together, the animal work and the spiritual work, in that I was going through a really hard time myself, was really out of balance, had a lot of symptoms of that imbalance going on in my life. And it was very obvious, but I wasn't, despite how much we know, sometimes we don't do those things for ourselves. And so, despite that, I just kept on keeping on and was really not in a good place. And that was that was happening. Meanwhile, I had this beautiful dog named Maya, a cockapoo, and she was probably 5 years old at the time. And she was a very sensitive girl, came from a very rough beginning. The first time I ever met her, I remember she was skinned down to like a bald dog, not just shaved, but all the way down to bald, because that's how much they had to cut from her matted. That's how matted she was to be able to get all that off. So I remember we met her in June and she had a Christmas sweater on. Those little moments of connection that you never forget. So we met Maya. We loved her. My husband really loved Maya and had a deep soul bond. And so she came into our family. So this was years later. She'd always been sensitive and had lots of imbalances, I would say, based on her past. But we'd worked through a lot of them. But at this particular time, things had gotten really bad, horrible, meaning she was so unwell and we could not figure out what was going on. We'd been to tons of vets. Been to, conventional as well as holistic. We'd read all the books. We'd researched nonstop. What her condition was just deep, ungroundedness. So she was itching. There was that physical part of like itching and constantly agitated. So she was gnawing on her paws all the time. She had plucked all the hair out of her whole belly and her legs and her thighs and her feet. So her whole underside was bare. Anything she could get her mouth to, she'd plucked all the hairs out. And she wouldn't rest. She would barely sit still. She would whine all the time, barely would eat, very inconsistent. Like once every 4 days, we'd get her to actually eat some food. Um, yes, we tried medications, we tried no medication, we tried natural medication, we tried everything and nothing was working. And she was just getting worse and worse to the point where we thought we were going to lose her. We didn't know what else to do. So it was right around that time that I too was feeling horrible. I was expressing how I was feeling inside of me, and my husband, as we said, obviously a very insightful guy, reflected back to me, well, how you're feeling is exactly how Maya's acting. And that was a light bulb that I'd never put two and two together. I'd never seen the way in which we were affecting our animals. And of course, I knew like if I got really upset, your dog would get scared and, you'd yell or get, start emoting. Your animal would get shy or afraid of that and go into the other room and want to hide. Of course, I would see more obvious things like that, but I didn't see the deeper underlying deep connection and closeness and reciprocity, of the positive and the negative that we experience together. And so that really got my eyes opened to what was potentially going on with Maya, which was just in Ayurveda, we call it an extreme Vata imbalance. We'll talk more about the doshas here in a few minutes. And that'll make more sense. But there's three predominant mind body types, and Maya was expressing is one of them, as each of us are. She's predominantly one of them. And that imbalance had gotten so strong that it just pushed her so far beyond her own ability to heal herself. And so I took it on. I said, if I'm going to, I know how to help someone with extreme Vata imbalance. I know how to help a human. That's what I do every day. Why don't I try to translate this to dogs?
Yeah.
And so I did. And Maya made a complete recovery. It was incredible. Within a week, you saw improvement. Within a month, you saw change. And within 3 months, there was transformation. And she had grown her hair back and she was back to normal again. And, the beautiful part, the silver lining of this story is how bonded that created Maya and I to be forevermore. So she did pass away right before we moved up here. So that was just a few years back. But She's forever the inspiration behind SAMA Dog.
Yeah. What
And
is
she guide you to help others.
She does. She did, and she does.
what are some of the things that you did for Maya?
Yeah, so she had, I'll say, just give a little context of the doshas, as mentioned, they're mind body types. Some of our listeners have surely heard these before, but it's Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So Vata is, just to make it simple, predominantly air. There's five elements that Ayurveda talks about: space, air, fire, water, and earth. Well, Ayurveda doesn't just talk about it, it uses those as its building blocks, its fundamental principles. And so what happens with the doshas, there's three doshas that combine a couple of the elements to create the qualities of that dosha. So Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Vata is predominantly, just to simplify it here, air. Um, Pitta is predominantly fire, and Kapha is predominantly earth. So Maya had she was an airy dog. And just even that alone, many of our viewers and listeners probably know that, can see in their own dog, like, are they more airy? Are they more fiery and kind of intense and engaged and driven? Or are they more earthy, slower, quieter, a little more withdrawn, a little more solid? So you can, without even knowing the Sanskrit names or that doshas even exist on this planet, I think all of us know Ayurveda. We just never had the exact words and the formulation and the structure.
Yeah.
So with Maya, she was a very light, airy dog, again, air. So she was skinny. She was always moving. She was, Vatas tend to be the life of the party. They're always spontaneous. They're up for anything. They don't need a lot of pre-planning. They're very lively, bubbly, friendly, adaptable, just like air, it moves around things. Air's blowing and a big rock is in the way and the air just goes around it. So airy beings, Vata beings, are very adaptable and malleable and quick to change, quick to come out of balance, quick to go into balance, just always lots of mobility and action with a Vata animal. So we love that about Maya because she was really playful and she got along with all the other dogs and all the other people. But when out of balance, what happens when something becomes too airy is it becomes dry and brittle and ungrounded and very much in the head. Where, because air, there's not a whole lot of physicality to it, right? So you get really in the head, and that's where nervousness, anxiety, and worry, fears, and phobias, all of that comes from an imbalance of Vata. Too much air in the body dries it out, shrivels it up, makes it not want to eat. Vata imbalance will make someone very skinny and frail. And in Vata imbalance in the mind will make someone quite worried and concerned and reacting in that way. So Maya just became very, very ungrounded and was expressing all of that nervousness and what she was receiving from me, that nervousness through her body. So what did we do? With Vatas, the predominant thing you want to do is, kind of separate out food and then lifestyle. That's the way I kind of teach it. So with food being such a big part of all of our lives, especially dogs, dogs want us to talk about food. So I want to honor them and, really make these conversations valuable for them. So, so food, warm, moist, and oily. That's the technique of grounding Vata. So whether you're a human or an animal or a plant, it's important to mention that doshas in Ayurveda applies to all living things. So it's humans, humans are animals, so all animal life, all species, all plant life, the cosmos. You could even see Ayurveda expressed through music, through certain aromas. Some are very airy and lively, some are very grounding. So you start to categorize basically all manifestations, all of existence, into categories that will either help by balancing that dosha. So there's so much air, you're bringing it down to earth. So that's going to balance that dosha, or it's going to exacerbate. It's going to create more air and more space and more movement and more change, and therefore create a worsening of that problem. So with Maya, warm, moist, and oily food right away. That's something that we've been as simple as splashing some almond oil or a sesame oil or a ghee onto the food, a little hot water before being fed, fresh food versus dry kibble. You can see dry kibble is like granola. A dried out person that doesn't have enough nourishment is not going to be benefited by crackers. basically. So you want to bring more nourishment in that way. And then, with environment, how do you calm the mind down in an environment? Well, you help them to bring more grounding energies towards them. So mindfulness in your environment with music and sound and even aroma, grounding aromas like lavender or um, chamomile or frankincense. Those are all very grounding as well. Grounding sounds, literally grounding music, like calming music in your environment versus like really upbeat dance music. For an animal, they might not know the
Yeah.
band that created it or the musician, but they definitely feel the
Yeah.
energy of the music. So that was another way, is just bringing that calming environment, warmth, because air and space are very cold. So you want to bring a lot of warmth into their life. And then I think one of the most impactful with Vata and trying to ground them is the human being. Vatas are very sensitive emotionally and mentally. And so their human being is a huge source of healing or imbalance to them. And so the connection that you can have if you have a dog who, or a human in your life who is very ungrounded and nervous and fearful and anxious and restless and can't sleep and can't eat, and you can see they're kind of floating away, you can yourself do grounding principles with them to bring them right back in.
Yeah.
And dogs receive this, especially dogs that are out of balance. It's incredible to see how they come toward the calming energy because they're receiving it from you. So if you're able to be in that really grounded space and that open, receptive, but also very peaceful space, they're drawn to that like a magnet and they want to be around for your meditations, a little massage, maybe a little acupressure. Those are all the things that I teach.
Oh, that's so beautiful, right?
Remember that movie of Disney called 101 Dalmatian?
Uh-huh.
When the people were walking around in the street and they looked just like the dog,
Yes.
the type of dog. Yeah, yeah, it's that synergy. And they're here to ground us and they're here to walk with us. And I notice it's more and more and more dogs and animals right now with all the upheaval that people are going, and they're kind of like grounding or supporting the earth. Mm,
Yes, they are. I think they're working overtime these
I know.
days to bring us back into balance. And
That's probably
that's,
why they only have certain amount of years here. They're like, okay, I'm
yes.
out of here, get another one.
Yeah.
So in your work then, do you find that the people, when they work with you with their animals, do you find that they become more self-aware themselves and start to
Definitely.
notice that mirroring or that connection that
Yes.
they have with their animals?
Yes, they sure
So
do.
awesome.
They
Mhm.
sure do. And this one Vata that we were just talking about, that is probably even a little more obvious, but when they get into other aspects of themselves, other doshas, it's not quite as obvious until you bring their attention to it. And then it's like, are you fired up? Like, here's a quick example. These stories, you start to see your whole life through like these Ayurvedic lenses once you learn about it. So I was with my friend, and she has these two German shepherds that are very feisty and very um uh just not the most patient or the most easy to approach dogs. So we have to keep some distance from the neighbors and things, and the neighborhood knows that. And so anyways, we're walking down the hill as we do every other day, and these two very big dogs come running out from this home that has no fence and doesn't contain the dogs. There's not leash by any means, and they come charging up. And when I'm with my little puppy, or she's now a year, but I had a few times where they scared her with that charging, but then they connected, and they were okay because Poppy's very balanced, my puppy. But these dogs, I wouldn't say necessarily are balanced. And so as those two very hostile dogs came running, these two hostile dogs came reacting. And all of a sudden there was the clash of Pitta, a fire of four beings, like all kinds of intensity. We've got them on the leashes. Anybody who deals with dogs knows that oftentimes the leash can create a lot of agitation. They
Yeah,
have to be on it in some cases, of
yeah.
course, but it does create a lot of agitation because they don't want that being held back. So anyway, I'm like, hey, I start yelling because they're about to have a brawl. And what are we going to do? So I start yelling to the owners of the house, like, hey, can you come over here? Can you get your dogs? Hey, can you help? Help us, help us. And I'm like yelling at the top of my lungs. I see this lady come running out, kind of not too fast, but moving towards us. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. As soon as she gets close enough for us to make connection, she starts yelling at me, screaming and yelling at me.
She's
And
like,
so I was just like, as we had our moment, which was quite something, we finally escape that situation. No one is harmed except for my ego. Um, I go walking away from that, and my first thought is, no wonder why your dogs are the way they are.
right.
Like we'd never met. That was our first interaction, and that's how you're going to come at me? Is exactly how the dogs just did it. And so it was just yet another reflection of there's so many ways that we see our behaviors in our animals, and our animals are reflecting us.
Mhm.
Another quick little side story is my friend who's a veterinarian in ER for like 30 years now. She's been doing a big study and still is gathering tons of information and has a quiz to gather this from people about physical maladies and how those reflect the humans exactly. So I mean like glaucoma in the right eye, dry mouth, a fungus on your left toe, abdominal pain, definitely like any sort of like digestive disorders, arthritis. She said it was unbelievable how often she would diagnose the dog or be dealing with what the condition was, and the human would say every time, I have that too, over and over and over again.
Is that? Do you think the dog is trying to absorb it for you, or what do you think is happening energetically from
Yeah,
you,
I
from
I
your?
think at some level they are trying to take it from us. You do hear some very touching and sad stories of, and now that I'm so deep into the animal world, I hear them all the time of even very specific cancers, like a pancreatic cancer coming right into the animal. The human lives, the animal dies from that specific cancer. So I do think there are many cases they want to take it from us. I recently heard a really profound story about a woman who went through a miscarriage, and her dog, who was spayed many, many, many years ago, starts bleeding and starts gathering up all her little stuffies to act like they're babies, and puts them all in her bed with her and started like trying to nurse the stuffies. So she was having a reflection of the baby, in pregnancy, and the loss of the pregnancy. And she got really sad with her mom, her human mom. And, she just went through the whole hormonal exchange. So I think oftentimes they're trying to take it. I think many times they're trying to relate, they're trying to help. I mean, if there's one creature on this earth that is here to serve and to love, it's a dog. So they just want to do that. And the more they love us, the more they're going to try to help us.
Yeah, I want to save them from whatever it is, this balance with me, which of course I have some.
Just a few, just little,
Oh,
little light ones.
Believe it or not.
we don't have any imbalances. While I'm listening to you, Amanda, it just makes me think about my two dogs. I make a children's series called Tucker and Leo, and it's very funny for the kids. But Leo is very sensitive, very like thoughtful. He's allergic to everything. That's his character, and he was me.
Hmm.
And then Tucker, the other dog, is like very quick to react. Like you can't take him to the dog park, or he just wants to lick or bite or chew everything. And that was totally my ex-husband. It very calm most of the time, a really nice dog, but very quick to anger,
Yeah.
And that was my ex.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to you thinking, oh my gosh, Leo had all my allergic issues, all my sensitivities, and Tucker was just like dad. Isn't that
Yep.
interesting?
It is. And I think probably all of us can think through our family and see it like that, and see even qualities that maybe they didn't come into our life with, but they acquired later, positive and negative. They're very spongy, I like to say. I know that's not a very formal way to describe it, but they're porous. They soak up whatever's around them. So, you think of the pit bull. That's the poor plight of the pit bull, right? The pit bull, a pit bull is an incredible dog. We have a foster dog right now that's a purebred, and she is so sweet and
Sweet.
loving and playful and connected and kind. And
Real.
she's been raised with a really good well, she's
Right.
our foster dog. It's a foster organization that takes care of the animals while the person's getting sober. So it's unique fostering that you just have them for a month or two while the person's in rehab and then they go back. So although obviously her mom has struggled because here she is, at the same time, you can see that there's been no lack of love. There hasn't been a lack of training either. There's been real care given to this animal, and therefore she reflects that. But put those dogs in hostile situations,
Yeah.
with angry people, people
Yeah.
who fight, people
Yeah.
who argue, people who hate, and the dog is going to fight anger and hate. And
Yeah.
that is what it is. And pit bulls, I do think they specifically are even a little more, let's just say, porous in that way. They really soak in their environment. I think it's because they are very open-hearted. They're very easygoing dogs by nature, and so that openness, like a person, is kind of you can pour into them, and then they become whatever that energy is.
I love their eyes. Do you
Mm.
have to hide your wine when the dog is there?
Hide the what? The
You
wine?
have to hide.
Why are they known to be winos?
No, but the mama.
Well, I haven't met Mama. It's just an organization that we go through. But yeah, you never know. I haven't actually had any beverages around her, but it would be interesting to see how she
Yeah,
reacts.
it was a movie with Shirley MacLaine, because Shirley is mad about dogs. She's like,
Uh-huh.
oh no,
I've heard that.
her life, she written books about it, and she did a movie called Monsieur Cognac, and
Ah.
the poodle was a full drunk, and so is she
Oh
actually.
my
Oh,
goodness.
well, I just said it, whatever.
Oh goodness. Well, they reflect us. They reflect us. Think of like super athletic people. You see them on Instagram, right? They're like climbing rocks and constantly bungee jumping and going on backpacking trips for 10 days by themselves. And they have this dog with them. Look at how that dog does it. The
Yeah,
dog
right.
is like the most athletic, devoted, energetic being, and I just don't think my dogs would be able to run out and hike 10 miles, or maybe because they are athletic, but for 10 days, going on and on. I just don't think it would be in them until they receive that from me.
Yeah,
It's like
right.
we create them in a huge way to who they are and their
Yeah.
personality and their behavior.
Yeah, we have one dog that this is a miracle because he's kind of almost completely blind.
Mhm.
Dupree, Monsieur Dupree. I call him after You and Me and Dupree,
Yeah.
because he look like the actor. But he was found in the 5 freeway by a trucker,
Oh, wow.
tramping along, because he has this thing about walking like a tightrope. I
Oh,
think that's why I kept them alive, because they fight freeways, all those big trucks is brutal.
Mhm.
And we have Dupree, and Dupree is like totally chill, don't want to be bothered with things, please. But he does go into barking. Now that the little one is here, he figured he'll do that, and I don't have to bother with it. So that kind of personality is more of a Kapha personality to me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
I think so. Just that more earthy, kind of receptive energy.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
how can you tell people how to a little bit guidance, because you have classes, you have
Mhm.
we're gonna share all that with them about the food, and
Mhm.
also your events, your classes, and the meditations that you have, which are
Mhm.
amazing. Um, to recognize what their dogs need, filling up
Mhm.
the questionnaires with you, or so I would think a bulldog is a Kapha dog.
Yeah, it's important to know that although some breeds do tend towards one dosha versus the other, their environment, their own unique personality completely has a very strong influence on that, of course. So their breed can lean toward one dosha or the other. However, like I said, their environment, who we are, how we treat them, then how we feed them, how we provide for them has a huge, huge impact on that. So to answer your question, though, someone can learn their dog's dosha on SAMA Dog, SAMA, like Sam, samadog.com.
Yeah.
And you'll see a little button there to take the dosha quiz, and then that'll give you the results of the predominant dosha. And all of us have all three doshas within us. We just have a unique recipe. And usually there's one that is predominant all the time, and then especially at certain times in our life. Like I think most of us listening would know that. Do we lean toward the Vata, like imbalance of I get really worried and the mind get very scattered when we get stressed? Or do we get angry, like Pitta, fire? Do we get angry when we get stressed? Or are we like Kapha, like the earth, where we get withdrawn when we're stressed? We just want to check out. We want to sit on the couch and eat some popcorn.
Yes. Yeah.
I actually totally just got mine.
Just now?
Well, I get stressed out and overwhelmed, and I just like, good.
Yeah, get mad at people.
So you would be the fiery
Pitta,
one, right?
Pitta. Yep. Yep. They say with Vata, the stress response is, what did I do wrong? Because most Vatas can relate to that. Like, oh, I shouldn't have, blah, blah, blah. Pitta, stress response, what did you do wrong? Kapha, stress response, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Right, my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because they're very similar like that. Renee with Steve, that they're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
which he can exasperate a Vata, a Pitta, whatever I am, a Vata that I'm like,
Imbalance.
reacting to that. What is that?
Yeah. Let me throw some more fire on them and see if I can get them to answer. That is how we do. We start to interact in this way, and we don't even realize we're doing it. It's nature.
Right, but he actually gets more quiet, which gets worse for me.
Because the stress response is whatever, withdrawal. So we yell at them. My husband's the same. Not that I go around yelling at him a lot, but once in a while, I will have a moment, as we do. And the more I come at him, the more he pulls back. And you can just see that stress response take over.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting, right?
It is.
Yeah, it's a balance, though. Imagine if both are the same.
Yeah.
It's like the same polarity, like the batteries will repair each other like a magnet, right? It's not, yeah. It's incredible. And you do your meditations, which I love.
There's lots of meditations on the site. We're in the midst of a series now through Dog TV. We're doing every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Yeah, Dog TV, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 Eastern time on the Dog TV YouTube page. That we have a live meditation now, and then that is archived on their page. And so if one follows SAMA Dog, just gets subscribed to our email and our newsletters, they'll get notifications of all of that. But I always put them on social media as well. And these meditations have been really great. They're simple because they're for a brand new audience, but yet rich and deep and authentic. I don't make it fluff. I want people to really get a lot out of this and the animals to get a lot out of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so to find out that, the doshas, I'm definitely going in there because when you were talking, I know little Brahmi. Little Brahmi is definitely what you were saying. Bing, bong, boom, boom, bing, bing, boom.
All over.
Right. Nobody like that in this house. And then Dupree is like,
whatever. Yeah.
Like,
should I do a little quick description of Pitta and Kapha? Just a little bit. So we have the balance. Talking about balance, that's what SAMA means, by the way. SAMA Dog. SAMA means equanimity and balance. So I would struggle to end a conversation without a balance in the information. So you can see my makeup with that. Um, so yeah, just so that our listeners have a little bit of a viewpoint of the other two, Pitta, Pitta. Again, all this information on my website. You can learn much more about it. But Pitta is fire. So those dogs or people are a little bit more intense, energetic. They tend to be muscular, really intelligent, definitely want a job. These are working dogs, working people. In the human realm, oftentimes actors and actresses and politicians, because they like to be in the light, because the fire is the light, and people are drawn to them, like moths are drawn to a light. People are drawn, they want to stare at them. So even literally up on a stage with spotlights on them, it's a very comfortable place for a pitta. They really like that. They tend towards intense behavior when out of balance. So, like you said, Isabel, you can get a little fiery and like spitball something and say something that is a little intense and burns someone, and dogs can react, of course, with being aggressive or just being highly irritated. Pitta is also irritable. You can even see that in the body when there's inflammation, right? It's inflames. The body is irritated. So it's all very similar. So the body mind being fiery can be of great benefit because that fire is transformation and very compelling, and lots of teachers and educators and change makers are very pitta, yet that pitta can scorch the village, scorch the body, scorch the mind. So what do? We want to cool them and dry them. And so cooling like coconut oil, green apples, banana, aloe, cucumbers, all of those elements from a food perspective can be very cooling. And then from environment, definitely leaning towards water. So the sounds of water, the smell of water, as much as that's a little bit odd, but having water features or water sounds playing for your animals, and then doing cooling activities, and avoiding heating activities. So my example is with a pit bull. Think that back to the pit bulls, a puppy pit bull, and they're doing tug of war, right? And tug of war is a pretty intense activity. Then we expect that animal to know the difference between we're playing tug of war right now, or my kid's getting dressed and you're pulling on its pant leg. Now we're not playing tug of war. It's a big expectation for a young animal, especially. So I would say with a very pitta animal, to avoid things like that are agitating and irritating and intensity provoking. You want to do calming activities. And again, going back to mindfulness, to meditation, to massage, touch, taking breaths together, bring in a little bit more air, and bring that calming experience back into the household. And calming aromas are always good, like mint and lavender is also cooling. I meant cooling aromas. So those kinds of elements in your home with animals. You want to go really light with aroma, but aroma can be a huge benefit for an animal, a dog especially, because their olfactory system is such a huge part of the information that goes into their mind and influences how they behave. And so that's pitta. And then the last one, kapha, Kapha, earth predominantly. So you can imagine, as we've alluded to, very stable, grounded, loyal, dependable beings, very easygoing, great friends, no drama. These dogs aren't drama. Even my puppy, she's a kapha. And I was just telling my niece who adopted her sister, I was like, how is your dog doing? And she's got her unique personality, because coming from the same litter doesn't matter at all. It's everyone's a unique individual. And I said, she said, does Poppy just drive you crazy sometimes? And I was like, she doesn't. I never have uttered the words, Poppy, like, stop that. Never. She just doesn't do that. She's just a very easygoing, mellow, accepting, never pulling the attention towards her kind of animal. And when out of balance, however, kaphas, as much as they are easygoing, when they get out of balance, like we said, the stress response is to withdrawal. Dogs will do the same. They'll withdraw, they'll gain weight, they'll become inert, they'll not want to engage much anymore. They'll hide under the bed or in their crate or under the covers even, because they just don't want to engage with the world. And so if you notice that within your dog, what you want to do is energize them. So energize them through their food, which are green leafy vegetables. That's, like an anti-inflammatory diet, right? It just like really lightens the body because they're heavy, they're too gross, they're too dense. So you want to lighten them. And so aroma is another really good thing to use with them, like a spicy kind of aroma. But spicy life, just spice it up. Now you put on the dance music. Now you get them walking, not just walking, but really ideally exercising and running every day. You get them engaged in activities. You take them to the coffee shop every morning, whether they like it or not. They're going to the coffee shop. They're going to talk to some people and they're going to and they're going to come home and they will at first maybe resist it if they're out of balance, but after some time they'll come to really like it because they'll come back into balance to just being that like sweet, easygoing kind of Labrador kind of energy. Come right back to that rather than being that ravenous, plump, withdrawn dog that doesn't want to do anything. So you can really see that in them.
So cool.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, it is.
Now I know exactly that one is definitely Kapha.
Yeah. Balanced Kapha or imbalanced?
It gets into sometimes, but like you said, if he's commotion, there's too much going on, he goes and hides. And he gets really, and especially now that when we came back, we left the day Stella passed away, and she was everything to Dupree. And everything. When we came back, I was really concerned that he was going to let himself go because he completely withdrew and he wasn't interested in anything. He was just laying and hiding and not. But the little one, which I was, it's a little bit like me, just a little bit. And so he is now taking the role of being the alpha dog and letting Brahmi know, no, we don't do that or this. So he got out of that funk with that.
The little one made him have a job, made him a bit more.
Gave him a role.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's much, much better, but he's definitely got out of this one.
Yeah.
I'm always respecting little plumpers or whatever with the Kapha kind of bodies.
Yeah.
But he's not that.
Is he sturdy though? So he might not be overweight, but is he sturdy, like kind of heavy?
No, he's not overweight at all.
Yeah. So, but even if he's not overweight, is he like a sturdy build?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that shows balance and not imbalance. But Poppy, my puppy, again, she's only 1 year old. She stands on you and it's like she weighs 100 pounds. She weighs 45. But when she puts one paw on your leg, I'm like, is your entire body like suspended and you're just, all your weight is on that foot? Because it feels so heavy. They just have a density to their body. And she's not overweight at all. She's
neither is Dupree, but he's like that.
Yes. Dense.
And it makes sure, and his paws are really planted.
Yeah.
Planted. Brahmi is a Maltese poodle, and it's like boom, 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 boom. Solid muscle, and he likes to sprint. And he's got this really sharp bark that is not my favorite. It comes out of nowhere, and I hit the roof, and I'm like. It's like a fire siren, you know what I mean? Like, what the heck, Brahmi?
Yep. And is it often, the barking?
He's gone into this thing that say he wants to eat, and he kind of rub, and all of a sudden, and I'm like, oh. Yeah, because being who I am, I just hit the roof. Steve just looked down and he just keeps doing whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. That just goes to show that, and it's same with human connections and relationships. It's not that we can't be friends or connected or partners or, human companions to the same dosha as us. Actually, in many cases, it's a great thing because then the things that you do to keep yourself in balance, you can do very easily for your dog. You're eating a green apple and you're just like, here's a couple bites, It's like, it's so easy like that. You're putting some cucumbers in your water and you put some in their water, and you get out at the cooler time of the day for your exercise and your dog's right along with you because that's the best time for them to exercise. So it's things like that that in some ways kind of make it easier. But certainly if both of you get out of balance, if one of you gets out of balance, you're probably both going to tend towards that. And that is what happened with myself and with Maya. I remember how irritated I was before I had my awakening. I was just like, that dog's driving me crazy. She's making everything worse. That constant irritating whine, like I just can't take it anymore. It was like fingernails on a chalkboard. But these symptoms come out really loud sometimes so that we'll pay attention. We humans are pretty distracted. And so it sometimes takes a lot to get our attention.
Yeah, but this is such an eye opener. I mean, I just totally think everybody should address what you teach, being the fact that we need so much harmony nowadays. When we understand where the other one comes from, and we start with ourselves, understanding how we function and why we do what we do, why we react to what we react, what is that can help us get that balance and I think it will be a better world all the way around, in general.
Yep. And, anyone who loves a dog or an animal in their life knows that for all they give to us and all that they share with us so selflessly and so unconditionally, it's our honor to be able to give that back to them. And sometimes we just need to know how.
Yeah.
Right.
And most pet parents I know are like, I am willing, like, I want my dog to live its best life. Like, I'll do anything for this dog. I hear that all the time. And that's a beautiful thing. It makes me almost get, misty when I hear that because it's like, thank you for loving something so much, but they just don't know how. And what we don't know how to do. So that's where just a few tips. And it's easy with animals. Humans are the complex ones. We're so much more nuanced. It's like, hey, this is good for you. And the human's like, yeah, but I don't like it. I don't want it. I'm not going to do it. Where a dog just takes it. And so they're actually very easy to rebalance again.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And it's so helpful. And we will have Amanda many more times. And we're going to put all the links so people can actually do the meditations. We will share all that and highly recommend people to do a little more digging in because that will benefit them also to understand the partners, the people that they work with. And if more people could understand each other, it would be less wars, less separation, less fear,
less struggle,
less disconnect, the mess that we're in, because it's like a serious planetary stew right now, And for me, the worst pandemic is ignorance,
True.
Knowing,
Yeah.
the worst, because if we don't know, if we know, it's so much freedom and richness. People is concerned about getting more money, getting more this, getting more that. But if you don't know these little pieces, you're going to lose it. You're going to misuse it. And you're not going to be able to hold on to it. Furthermore, you want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But all of these understandings and this balance makes equanimity, that's why Cory and we're doing this, to connect all these tools and to have a source place where people can say, oh, okay, I can use some of that. Oh, okay, oh, I didn't know that, and bring people, Gabor Mate is going to come in, and, Huberman and all these guys that can, share their beautiful understandings and years of experience that, no one's is for all, but it's a source where people can go in like, okay, I can use that. My dogs can use that. And this applies to cats too, correct?
All animals. Even your fish
Yeah,
or
and
your
plants,
squirrels outside.
certain plants and
Plants.
everybody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
If
the
you have,
plants. I'm fascinated with that part because my
yeah.
house is like a jungle. You know, I have
Yeah,
over
mine too.
you too?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have over 300 orchids. And
Wow.
what are orchids? What are in that world? What are they?
Yeah, you kind of have to think about it into the qualities of an orchid. They are pretty slow, moving, blooming. They're
Yeah.
slow to bloom. They keep their bloom for a long time. They
Mhm.
let go of the bloom. They're no drama. Like,
No,
a lot of people say, I always kill orchids. And I think, how do you kill orchids? Like, they're the hardest plants to actually kill because they're pretty. You have to know how to, yeah, you just have to
no,
know.
they overwater.
Yes,
An
they're
orchid
overwater.
is an air plant.
Yeah. Yeah. So they just need a little humidity and a little less water, probably. But in
Yeah,
general, I've
yeah.
got a couple downstairs that I continually forget about. And every time I make my way, I'm like, you guys look great. And they've been neglected for 4 weeks,
They
and
like that. They
yeah.
like to be left alone.
Yeah. So right there,
Ah.
there you go. Little pop quiz. Exactly. I would think it's Kapha. Yeah.
Cory said, yeah.
Oh,
I'm
Amanda.
so happy because I missed you. I
Ah,
mean,
too.
always in our heart. And I am so grateful that you took the time because you're taking care of your mom right now. And I don't know how she is. That's such a hard time, right?
It is a time that we don't necessarily plan enough for, is what I've come to realize.
Oh,
It's the
God.
time we take care of our parents. But thank you both very much for creating such a great outlet for the world to receive information that they need. It's like just to put all those resources out there, people will
Yeah,
find their way to what works for them and
yeah,
what they relate most to. And this is the most valuable thing we can be doing, is helping each other to heal and to balance and to ascend from the heaviness of this world. So thank you. I'm so grateful to be able to do that through the lens of animals and through dogs, but
yeah.
the connections that
Yeah,
we
I know
bring
I was born for service,
mm,
and contribution. So
do a
for
great
me,
job of it.
very natural. It's so natural. Yeah, I love you so much.
Mm,
And I'm so happy that we can, because you're very busy too, to find the moment. And I kept saying to Cory, oh, wait until you meet Amanda.
I know,
Woo!
right? No,
Right?
I'm
oh,
so thankful that
thank you.
you shared all of your wisdom with us today. I think there'll be so many people that hear everything that you talked about that will value that, and it will be new information. So much of it was new for me. So
Yeah.
I think I'm just really grateful that you shared your tools and how you contribute to this world. And we'll put all of your links below so that everybody can get a hold of you, all of your social medias, your websites, and all of that wonderful stuff. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
And it will
Thank
be
you, buddy.
chapter 2, because I think she's got so much.
I can't wait. Oh, yeah, there's
Yeah.
lots we haven't talked about yet. So just stay tuned. Hmm.
I
Lots
love
of
you so
love.
much. Mwah. Say
Bye.